My brother's here.
The first time the 3-year-old daughter went to my in-laws' house, she pointed to the old barn and said that. I was shocked by those words. No way. That can't be. Actually, my son, who was 2 years old at the time, went missing around the in-laws area 5 years ago. That was the place we searched extensively. But if my daughter says so, maybe there's no mistake. Because she has a mysterious power. With trembling hands, I opened the heavy door, and an unbelievable sight met my eyes. It was a moment when I was liberated from long suffering. It was 3 years ago when my daughter Emma was born.
Since we have a daughter now, let's forget about Justin.
My husband Louis told me that. But
I think it's better for you that way.
I bit my lip and stayed silent without arguing. Maybe it was his way of caring for me, but I couldn't forget about my son Justin. It was my negligence that led to my son's disappearance, and I had been blaming myself ever since Justin went missing. That day when the incident happened was a Sunday at the end of April 5 years ago.
Today, go to my parents' house.
Louis, who is usually gentle, said so forcefully at that time. Sure, but why all of a sudden? Is something going on?
Looks like my parents are preparing for Children's Day and want to see Justin.
They wanted to show their first grandchild the impressive fish decorations swimming in the sky and the ornaments displayed in the alcove. Or so they said. My in-laws' house was in the countryside, taking over 2 hours by changing trains and bullet trains. We both worked, with my husband working for a major company in the city and me doing translation work from home, so we couldn't visit home easily. I feel uneasy. But let's do our duty to my in-laws, who I should really consider as my own parents. There was another reason why we didn't visit my in-laws' house much. My mother-in-law always treated me harshly for being a daughter-in-law. But since my parents had already passed away, I convinced myself and left my husband, who had to work on his day off, and went to my in-laws' house with my son. As soon as we arrived, my in-laws welcomed Justin with joy, saying, "The heir has come." But as expected, my mother-in-law glared at me. Louis ended up with a worthless wife. Not only did you take away my son, but you won't let us see our grandson. I'm sorry. My job keeps me busy, and I can't find the time. You, a woman, acting so high and mighty with a job. I never liked you from the start. She kept throwing one cold word after another at me. Because of you, my son has changed. He doesn't even come back as the heir. But that's because Louis decided it himself. I don't want to hear such talk. It's all your fault. No matter what I said, my mother-in-law wouldn't accept me. My father-in-law, who stood beside her, was kind to me, but it seemed he couldn't oppose my mother-in-law and pretended not to hear. Maybe if my husband had been there, he would have defended me, but at that moment, I could only endure. Still, my son was delighted to see the big fish decorations and the impressive Children's Day decorations he couldn't see in the city. Furthermore, my in-laws owned a large, impressive sake brewery, and there were big trees in the spacious garden.
Mom? Here. Take it.
Approaching me and holding out his hand was a flower petal. He gave me a present. Thank you, Justin. As I replied, Justin smiled satisfactorily. Then I was called by my father-in-law.
Sorry, but could you help carry the luggage?
He asked me to carry about 10 large cardboard boxes loaded on the truck into the barn. Come on, big guy, let's go. I took my son's hand as he squatted under the tree looking at the flower petals and decided to leave him with my mother-in-law indoors. While I help your husband, please take care of Justin. Whatever. My mother-in-law didn't even look at me, pulled Justin toward her, hugged him, and smiled. Feeling relieved to see that, I returned to the garden to help my father-in-law again. After a while, when I finished carrying all the luggage inside, my son was not beside my mother-in-law. Hey, where's Justin? Huh? I don't know. He said he was going to Mommy's. But he hasn't come. I frantically searched inside and around the house, but I couldn't find him anywhere. My son suddenly disappeared. How far could he go with his 2-year-old legs? Maybe he's in those mountains? Behind my in-laws' house, there was a dense mountain, and I thought he might have wandered in there. Justin, where are you? Answer me. Mommy's here to pick you up. I searched desperately, shouting until my throat was dry, but I couldn't hear my son's reply. My husband also rushed over upon hearing my call and comforted me, saying, "It's not your fault. It's useless to search anymore." On that day, my mother-in-law started saying such things. Please. Can't you ask the police to help and get the local people to cooperate? I desperately bowed my head to my mother-in-law, who refused to accept it. I won't allow that. Reporting to the police would be shameful. Besides, it's your fault for taking your eyes off him. I'm sorry. But right now, we need to find Justin.
That's right, Mom. It's not the time to worry about appearances. I'll go ask.
If Lewis says so. I guess there's no helping it. Reluctantly, my mother-in-law agreed as asked by my husband and contacted the local people. At that moment, I once again thought that Lewis was the only one on my side, and tears almost welled up. Thank you. I'll contact the police then.
I think it's better not to.
Why? We need to find him as soon as possible.
In a maze-like countryside, the locals might know more. The police might prioritize finding the criminal over the search. Let's start by searching with the locals.
I agreed to my husband's idea, as long as Justin was found quickly. However, despite the efforts of many people searching, my son was not found. We should still report to the police.
You're right. I'll go now.
An hour later, when my husband returned home, he said that they would expand the search area deep into the mountains and investigate the possibility that someone had taken him. I hope he's found soon. Please be safe. Despite searching everywhere, my son couldn't be found, and 3 days after he disappeared, I was taken home by Lewis. Even after that, I worried about Justin and visited my in-laws' house alone many times, starting a life of searching in the mountains and surrounding areas. Because of you, our grandson is gone. Don't ever come to our house again. But my mother-in-law disliked me, and I eventually couldn't get close to my husband's parents' house. In hindsight, maybe I should have quietly searched without telling anyone. Even in such a situation, Lewis always empathized with my feelings.
I'm thinking of cutting ties with my parents, who always treat you coldly.
One day, he suddenly told me that. Is that really okay?
You don't need parents who make you suffer. And let's stop looking for Justin anymore. I'm worried about your health.
Since my son disappeared, I couldn't sleep at night, couldn't eat, and ended up losing weight until my bones were visible. Persuaded by my husband, I decided to believe that someone is protecting Justin and he's still safe. Eventually, I became pregnant with our second child and gave birth to a girl. We named her Emma. I never forgot about my son, but I decided to pour all my love into raising my daughter as well. Actually, Emma had a slightly mysterious power. For example, when I was searching for something without saying anything to her, Emma would always bring it to me right away. There were also times when she helped me. While walking in the nearby residential area,
That big guy wants mommy's bag.
and when my daughter muttered that, a young man on a bicycle coming from the front reached out for my bag. At that moment, when I changed the hand holding the bag, the man lost his balance and fell. The perpetrator was apprehended by the nearby people who witnessed the whole thing and safely handed over to the police. With such incidents happening, I thought Emma's power was real. However, even if I told my husband about this story, he only found it creepy and didn't believe it, so I stopped talking about it to him afterward. Emma grew up healthy, and when she turned 3 years old, suddenly, she asked, "Where are my grandpa and grandma?" I was startled by those words. Come to think of it, my parents-in-law had shown a lot of affection to my son. Although I was too preoccupied with grief to notice at the time, my husband's parents must have been sad when Justin disappeared. Just like me. It might be selfish not to let Emma meet them just because of my feelings. Thinking that way, I decided to consult with Lewis.
I've cut ties with my terrible parents. There's no need to let our daughter meet them now.
He vehemently opposed it with a grim expression. But I felt an indescribable discomfort with his attitude. In hindsight, maybe it was a premonition of something. A few days later, without telling my husband, I decided to visit my in-laws' house with Emma for the first time in years. When I arrived at the nearest station and called to inform them that we would take a taxi there, my father-in-law ended the call unilaterally in a fluster, saying, "I'll pick you up by car right away." Since I was already in a taxi, I tried calling back, thinking we shouldn't miss each other, but the call didn't go through. By the time I arrived near my in-laws' house, I decided to take a detour from the road with Emma holding my hand. As we walked along the narrow path leading to my in-laws' house, my daughter suddenly pointed to the barn behind the building.
My big brother is in there.
Even though I hadn't told her about Justin, it was strange that she suddenly said that. Could it really be? With a last hope, I peeked into the dimly lit barn and was met with a surprising sight. It was the figure of a boy chained to a pillar in the barn. It was my beloved son, whom I had never forgotten for a single day. Justin. I frantically went around to the entrance of the barn, but it was locked and I couldn't get in right away. I swung the hatchet that was nearby over and over again, and somehow managed to unlock it, perhaps because the key was rusty and old. I finally found you. Tears overflowed as I hugged my son.
Who are you? Are you going to help me?
Looking puzzled, Justin stared at me, and I said, "Let's get out of here right away." He looked worried and said,
Grandpa and Grandma locked me up. I wonder if this is okay.
"Might that be true?" I was so shocked that I lost my words. Surprisingly, my husband's parents were involved in the incident of my son's disappearance. "I'm your mommy. I've been looking for you all this time." To rescue my son, I took pliers from the toolbox that was in the corner of the barn and cut the chain. Then I took the children and hurriedly entered a mountain path off the road. This was a part of the mountains that I had entered many times to search for Justin, so I had a little familiarity with the area. First, I need to contact Lewis. Thinking so, I took out my phone from my bag, and although I was so focused on rescuing my son that I didn't notice, there were tons of missed calls from my husband. Hello, it's you?
Finally got through. I'm heading to my parents' house. Don't talk to the locals.
My husband started saying incomprehensible things like not trusting the locals. Even though I hadn't told him anything, Lewis knew that we were at my in-laws' house. Probably his father had contacted him. But still, why would he dislike contact with the locals who had helped search for Justin together when he disappeared?
So, where are you now?
I'm at the station, waiting for your father to come. Feeling a bad premonition, I deliberately lied to my husband.
Oh, then that's good.
I felt something was wrong with Lewis, who seemed relieved. I continued to walk along the mountain path with the children and decided to stop by a house along the way. It was the home of the Smiths, who had helped in the search for Justin before. Hello. Justin has been found. When I spoke up, they looked very skeptical.
What are you talking about? He was found right away after you left, wasn't he?
Eh? What do you mean?
We were told that he was found in the shed right after you left.
That's impossible. I was bewildered, and Mr. Smith explained further. But it turned out that they had been told by my parents-in-law that since our son's wife ran away with another man, we are raising Justin in that house. That's a lie. I vehemently denied it, and Mr. Smith twisted his head, saying, "It seems like the story we heard was different." The locals believed the story from my in-laws because they occasionally saw my husband return to his parents' house, and they had seen Justin at his entrance ceremony. So, does that mean Lewis was also involved in deceiving me? That's too much. I trembled with regret at the fact that my son had been torn away from me all this time. At that moment, Emma gently held my hand.
Mommy, I'm glad my big brother was found.
Smiling, she held hands with her newly met brother Justin with her other hand. Justin looked at Emma with confusion, and then looked up at me. Until then, Justin's expression had been stiff, but he looked into my eyes and said with tears streaming down his face,
Are you really my mommy? You didn't abandon me, right?
I haven't forgotten you for a single day. We'll be together forever from now on. Justin nodded silently. When I listened to Justin's story, he told me that his grandparents had received a call from someone and took him to the barn, telling him, "Don't make a sound. Hide," and chained him there just before meeting me. Thinking about how scared my son must have been, my body heated up with anger. I can never forgive this. The Smith couple, who had been watching our situation, offered their help. I immediately called my father-in-law and husband and told them that I was at the Smith's house. The first one to rush over was my mother-in-law. "Don't you dare take my grandson away on your own." She flew into a rage and tried to hit me, but the Smiths stopped her. "This child is my son. You told me he was missing and deceived me, didn't you? That child isn't Justin. He's my daughter's child." My mother-in-law tried to evade responsibility by claiming that he was her daughter's child.
No. He's my big brother.
That's right. Your story doesn't match hers. This child is Lewis's, right?
My mother-in-law mumbled and avoided eye contact. Then my father-in-law arrived and shouted, "We've disowned this wife. Don't take them away. And tried to take Justin back forcefully. He tried to forcibly take my son away from me, who wouldn't let go, but Mr. and Mrs. Smith intervened, trying their best to protect my son.
What are you doing? I cut ties with my parents. Let's go home.
Then, Lewis came running with a changed expression and told me, I won't be deceived anymore. You're the one who separated Justin from me.
Stop saying weird things. I've always been on your side, haven't I?
I glared sharply at my husband, trying to evade the issue. I can't trust you. I've decided not to let go of this child.
I don't know what you're talking about. Justin is gone. Give up.
My husband continued to deny the existence of our own son, who was right in front of him. Upon hearing this, Justin, with a tense expression, asked,
Am I not your child?
I don't know anything about you.
Nevertheless, Lewis continued to shower him with harsh words. I won't forgive you. This time I'll go to the police and tell them everything.
Even if you do that, it'll just be laughed off as a family dispute.
My husband tried to escape somehow, but it didn't work out. There's evidence. Actually, I had detailed records of what happened when Justin disappeared, thinking it might be useful someday. I had recorded every little thing that happened afterward as well. So, I took a picture of my son chained in the barn with my phone and kept it.
I don't know about that. It's all what the parents did. It has nothing to do with me.
Lewis. What are you saying now? Didn't you say you'd hand Justin over as an heir in your place?
Mom, stop it. Don't say anything more.
As my mother-in-law argued with my husband and tried to act like she didn't know anything, they finally started to quarrel. Amidst their attempts to justify themselves, all the truths became clear. On the day my son disappeared, Lewis and his parents had conspired together, telling my son, "Let's go play," and took him to the car parked a little away. Then they temporarily left him at his aunt's house in a distant town, and when things cooled down, they brought him back to their house, and his grandparents took care of him. No matter where I searched, I couldn't find him. So, you disowned your parents and made sure they didn't come near here.
That's right. But still, you brought Emma here without my permission. If you hadn't done that, none of this would have been exposed.
This incident was prompted by my husband, who was being blamed by his parents for not having an heir and wanted to continue living in the city. So he plotted to hand over our son as his substitute. That's despicable. You only think about yourself.
But what else could I do? I hate the countryside. I had no choice but to give up Justin. Even if I told you, you would have opposed it, right?
Of course. There's no way I could let go of my own child. At that time, Lewis defending me was also an act by my mother-in-law and husband to prevent me from reporting them. They only told the locals to search for the child, and my husband never went to the police. I was completely deceived.
I'm sorry. So let's not go to the police. Justin is fine, as you can see.
That's right. I raised him with love. Isn't that enough? Besides, we're not family. Even my father-in-law bowed his head and begged, but I firmly refused them, rejecting their pleas. At that moment, the sirens of the patrol car, which the Smiths had reported, approached. The arriving police officers were shown a photo of my son chained, and my in-laws and husband were taken away. Afterward, my husband and in-laws were interrogated and arrested. I divorced Louis and decided to claim $30,000 in compensation and $300,000 in child support for both children. Furthermore, I demanded $20,000 in compensation from my in-laws. Afraid of the heavy charges, my in-laws relinquished their land and property and agreed to pay in a lump sum. Since my husband was found guilty, he was fired from his company and now works multiple jobs to make payments. By the way, my in-laws put their house up for sale, but it ended up unsold, and they still live in the same place. However, they are seen with disdain by the locals and live in isolation. It's only natural since they deceived everyone, isn't it? I now live peacefully with my 2 children, away from my husband's knowledge. Justin has more smiles now and gets along well with his sister Emma, and I am very happy now. How was this story for you? Please subscribe to the channel as well. Well then, see you again in the next video.